Today's lesson will really make you sound like a native speaker. It's all about vague language, which is very common in English, informal English, of course. Vague means approximate, not exact or precise. It's a useful way to fit in with native English speakers. Think about stuff, things, thingamabob, that kind of thing. Keep watching and you'll learn all about it. So, to learn about vague language today, we're going to start with a listening exercise. Then I will explain the vague language from the conversation and also give you some tips. As always, there are some great exercises over here on this website. This is the link for today's lesson. It's free, of course, so what are you waiting for? Now, let's listen to a conversation between Karen and Jason. The first time you listen, try to answer these 3 questions. Number 1, when are Karen and Jason going to go out? When? Number 2, what will they do? Number 3, what time will they meet? What are you doing this weekend?
A few things. I'm catching up with a friend on Saturday morning. We've got some stuff to talk about. And Sunday, I'll go to the football.
Are you free Saturday night?
Yeah, I think so. What do you have on?
I'm going out with a couple of friends. Would you like to join us?
Maybe. What's the plan?
We'll probably get some food and maybe check out that night market too. Have a wander, that kind of thing. It'll be Megan and Andrew and a few others.
Oh yeah, I remember Megan. She has reddish hair, right? She's friends with, what's his name? Is it Will?
Yeah, that's her. Yep, she's friends with Will.
Sounds good. I'd love to come. What time?
We'll meet at the central train station around 7ish.
Awesome.
Okay, so did you answer the questions? Number 1, when are Karen and Jason going to go out? The answer is Saturday night. Number 2, what will they do? They will eat dinner, go to a market and walk around. And number 3, now what time will they meet? Approximately 6 o'clock. So I say approximately, but what did Karen say? She said 6-ish. This is a perfect example of vague language. So we can add ish to lots of words to mean approximate. So remember, vague language is words or phrases that aren't exact or precise. Let's listen to the conversation again. See if you can find any other examples of vague language. This time you will be able to read the subtitles. What are you doing this weekend?
A few things. I'm catching up with a friend on Saturday morning. We've got some stuff to talk about. And Sunday, I'll go to the football.
Are you free Saturday night?
Yeah, I think so. What do you have on?
I'm going out with a couple of friends. Would you like to join us?
Maybe. What's the plan?
We'll probably get some food and maybe check out that night market too. Have a wander, that kind of thing. It'll be Megan and Andrew and a few others.
Oh yeah, I remember Megan. She has reddish hair, right? She's friends with... what's his name? Is it Will?
Yeah, that's her. Yep, she's friends with Will.
Sounds good. I'd love to come. What time?
We'll meet at the central train station around 7-ish.
Awesome.
Alright, before we look at the examples from this conversation, let's go through some different types of vague language. Now remember, the examples I talk about here are all for informal spoken English. You would never write any of these. So first, nouns. There are a few ways to refer to nouns without using their actual name. For example, thing, bit, and stuff. Thing, objects which aren't described. And this is a countable noun. Stuff is more than one object and it's uncountable. Bit is a part or section of something. There are some other words that we use in this way. So for thing, we have a few made up words that you might hear. Sometimes we say thingy. We might say thingamabob or thingamajig. And what's it? As in, what's it called? We say, what's it? You could do the same for people's names, like, what's his name? Let's look at the examples from the conversation.
A few things. I'm catching up with a friend on Saturday morning. We've got some stuff to talk about.
What does Jason mean by a few things? So the context is really important with vague language. In this case, we can guess it's different activities, jobs that he's already doing on the weekends. We might use vague language when we don't want to be specific and share all our information, or maybe we just don't think that it's interesting to the other person, so we just say things. We can also use things to talk about objects, of course. For example, I think I left some things at your house, or I need a few things from the supermarket. So maybe if I was being specific, I would say I need milk and cheese and bread and bananas and broccoli from the supermarket. But that's too literal. So we say I need a few things from the supermarket. Another example from this conversation. So we've got some stuff to talk about. In this case, we don't know what stuff Jason needs to talk about. It might be private and he doesn't want to say, or it might just not be important. Next, we often use quantifiers and many of these are quite vague. Quantifiers are words like some, a few, a little, etc. I have done a whole video on this and I'll link it up here and also in the description box. Now, let's look at some examples from the conversation. A few things, some stuff, a couple of friends, a few others. Now, generally, a few means 3 or 4 and a couple means 2. But when we are using them in an informal conversation, they are very approximate. Although Karen says a couple of friends, which could mean 2, later she says 2 names, Megan and Anthony, and then says a few others. So it's definitely more than 2. By not being specific, she is sounding very relaxed, which means the outing, where they're going, is going to be a very relaxed and he's very welcome. Some other examples of vague language are sort of and kind of. And these mean a little bit or quite. For example, it's sort of difficult to understand what he says. Sort of. So it's a little difficult. And it's kind of cold today. So it's a little cold. These words, sort of and kind of, are also often contracted, and we say sorta and kinda. It's sorta difficult to understand what he's saying. It's kinda cold today. At the start of this lesson, I mentioned 6-ish and how ish can be added to different words. So it's very common to add ish to times to mean approximately. So 6-ish or 7-ish or 10-ish. It can also be added to adjectives to mean a little or slightly. She has reddish hair. So slightly red hair. Or it's coldish. Maybe bring a jacket. So it's a little cold. My last tip on vague language is the word maybe. Now I know that you know that maybe means possibly. But it can also mean yes, and it can also mean no, where we don't want to be too direct, saying yes or no. And so you have to understand from the context and also from the body language and intonation whether the person means yes or no. So there's an example of this in the conversation. Let's listen again. I'm going out with a couple of friends. Would you like to join us?
Maybe. What's the plan?
So do you think that Jason means yes or no? So remember that vague language is wonderful if you want to sound like a native speaker and understand native English speakers. It's not good for formal language and writing. Well, thanks for watching. Here's a link to another video that you will like, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future lessons. Alright, bye!